Hello, a formal process here. This is the Cobalt8m. I use it a lot. I'm going to show you how I make some sounds using this thing. So this is a sound design tutorial. Let's start out with the oscillator. This has two oscillators. We're going to just choose a sound that we want as kind of our basis for creating things. The Cobalt8m has a number of algorithms, and within each algorithm there is two different setting knobs. One is to kind of change the overall sound. This case goes from sine wave to triangle to square wave. And then it has another knob that lets you vary the tone and often the shape of that. Let's choose a different algorithm. Let's see, scroll through a couple of different settings here. There's a nice triangle. Square wave. Another type of triangle. And each algorithm has a different way it's going to manipulate and vary the basic shape. Oh, here's a good pulse wave. Good thing to start from. It's a pulse wave. The settings already are varying and modulating it to some degree. We could even choose to use an LFO to help modulate some parameters. So let's use LFO1. We're going to change some of the aspects of this pulse width modulation. So as we're playing it, it's going to manipulate the sound. And I'm going to choose LFO2 to manipulate the major aspects of this sound. So we're going to, LFO1 is going to manipulate the minor aspects, and LFO2 is going to manipulate the major aspects of this pulse width modulation. So now we have a fairly nice tone. Now within the Cobalt8, there's actually two oscillators, so we can mix those and mix them together. So let's choose an algorithm for oscillator 2. Here we have a slightly different square wave pulse width modulator. This one has a nice kind of broad, deep sound. That automatically is varying, so it's a decent mix. And we can blend these two oscillators together. Favorite things about this Cobalt8 is just how deep the bass can really sound. Gritty. It has that kind of grit factor to it. So now I can use one of the envelopes. Envelopes can be programmed to also turn knobs. So in this case, I'm going to use this envelope to adjust the mix. So it's going to blend the different oscillators together based upon the envelope shape. adjust the depth of how much it's going to manipulate. Now let's look at the filter. We can add a filter to this and manipulate the filter's shape and its movement through an envelope. There's a couple different kinds of filters that we can use. Has a regular low pass, a balanced low pass, and a balanced phase. The phase one's kind of nice. It's a notch type filter, or double notch. Has a really distinctive sound when that filter moves up and down. So I'm just exploring kind of where I want this filter to be and how I want it to move. Let's go back to a low pass filter. In this case, a wide low pass filter. Slowly back off on the cutoff. Just the saturation, sustain, release on this. Now let's look at our amp envelope. So we get a sharp initial hit and a nice release for the overall sound. So it's starting to sound most interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and save this just to make sure I have this saved in a patch location. Quickly name it. Now let's add some filters. So this one has a pretty decent chorus filter. It has a couple different flangers. This one's the negative flanger. Ooh, that's pretty nice. Some delay. Start with a ping-pong delay, just to widen the signal. Just some of the rate. Let's just try a different type of delay. And finally, let's add a little bit of lo-fi feel and some more grit to this. kick in the bit crusher a little bit. Let's turn down the bit crusher. This is starting to sound more of what I want this to sound like. Now for some final tweaks. We have a analog drift knob. Since this is a digital virtual analog synthesizer, we have to tell it how much analog drift we want and how wide we want the stereo field to be. I generally turn up the drift, a bit so that each time I play it's slightly different, and then adjust the width to the type of sound I'm trying to create. And then finally making some fine-tune adjustments to the pitch. There's a fine adjustment to the pitch that lets you offset them a little bit between each oscillator. And finally we can widen the sound using some of the different modes. This is a stack mode. There's a total of 8 oscillators, but in stack mode you cut down the number of oscillators that you're actually playing and doubling them up. So in this case it's stack 2 mode, where it's using 2 sets of oscillators of the 8 for every key you're pressing. So you're reducing polyphony that you're playing, but increasing the overall depth of the oscillators you're using. So the Cobalt8, it's a polyphonic synthesizer, has really solid bass. It's deep and gritty. I use it for almost everything because I can create worlds of sound using these 2 oscillators and the sheer depth of algorithms that are provided in this synthesizer. The FX are decent. Oftentimes I supplement the FX that are present on board with other effects pedals or other kinds of things. But it's a solid synthesizer. It works off of MIDI. You see me here using the actual physical knobs, but the synthesizer also has a decent GUI display. It lets you turn the knobs using your computer and design sounds that way. I choose to use the physical pieces oftentimes because when I'm creating music I want to step away from the computer and just focus on the sound and the effects that I'm doing. Hope this was a useful behind-the-scenes view of my sound design process. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to make other videos of this type. Alright, cheers.